Hello and welcome everybody back to the entertainment headquarters. I am your girl, Jessica Marie, and today we are eating a huge bowl of nachos. This is massive. I don't know if it looks as massive on the screen, but it's massive. It's like almost the size of my head. We're also going to be having some orange vanilla Coke. This nacho has chili in it, two different types of cheeses, guacamole, sour cream, green onions, white onions, peppers, pinto de gallo, and some jalapenos. It's also layered, so it's some down here too. This is crazy, but that's what we're doing. And today, the movie that we're going to be watching is called The Forest. It is PG-13, and the movie came out in 2016. It's a mystery drama, and it's starring Natalie Dormer, and she plays Jess, and she plays Sarah. Um, so, let's just get into the story. So let me try some of these nachos. Oh my god, this is insane. Mm. That was some guacamole. Oh, let me see the guac. This is too much food. Oh, got some cheese. Oh my god. It's a nice piece. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Starting to get messy. Mm. Those peppers are good. I like those little mini peppers. So, let me pour the soda. Mm. Have some of that. Oof. Very good. So, the movie starts off with a young girl. She's running through the forest. And we find out that this girl is Jess. Mm. Um, God, this is massive. My husband will be eating the rest of this because this is a lot. Mm. So, she's running through the forest, and it looks like she's lost. And then it goes to the sister is like, it fast forwards, and we end up in this really fancy home. with a girl named Sarah. And Sarah is Jess's twin sister. So Sarah senses that something's going on with her twin. And she's like, I haven't heard from her in a few days. And it's not like her. And so finally she's like, I have to go to Japan. That's where her sister's at. So I have to go to Japan. I have to make sure she's okay. And, I'll be right back. And her boyfriend's like, you're always saving your sister. She's always into something. There's always something wrong with her. So, you know, why are you acting so dramatic about it? Basically, man, there's so much stuff. I'm like, where is the chips? Mm, a lot of food. So, basically, she's like, I have to go. She's my twin sister, and I think she's in trouble. So, he's like, fine, call me when you get there. So she arrives, and she's on the hunt. She's looking for her sister. So she gets in town and she goes to the school that her sister, I believe, was teaching at. And so she asks, she goes into the classroom, and a young lady immediately like starts screaming because she's like, she just starts screaming when she enters the classroom. And so they go to the principal's office, and the principal translates what the student is saying to Sarah. And she said, I'm really sorry that I screamed. This is what the student is saying. But I thought you were Jessica. And um and Sarah's like, well, it's fine. She's like, well, why did you scream? Why were you scared? And she said, because not Sarah, but Jessica went into this forest, and she said that basically she thought that Jessica had returned as a ghost. So Sarah's like, okay, whatever. So after that, she asked if she can see her sister's room because I guess she had a room at the school. So she wanted to see the room, and the lady took her there. And she looked around, and you could see that Sarah had some pills. I don't know if she had a drug problem, or I think it was like anxiety pills. So I think she might have some anxiety or something like that. So after that, she goes to a hotel where her sister was staying because she's on the hunt to find her sister. So, oh my God, these nachos are massive and they're layered, so it's like, it's crazy. Mm. I was looking at my screen because I'm like, I know I feel something. So she goes to this hotel and she shows the lady at the front desk a picture of her sister. She's like, have you seen her? Is she here? And she's like, yeah, she was here. She's like, come, I'll show you. And she's like, well, where is she? And she's like, I'll show you where I keep the bodies. And she's like, keep the bodies? So the lady shows her, she's like, come on down here to the basement. And Sarah's nervous, like anyone should be, to go down to the basement in a foreign place, and you don't know this lady or anyone. So, but she goes down there, and right when the lady's about to show her the body, someone shows up, so she has to go attend to them. So, wow, look at that, just cheese and mm, mm. So the lady leaves, and she's like, wait a second, I'll be right back. So Sarah takes it upon herself to lift the sheet and look at the body herself. She sees it, she's grossed out, she runs away, and she's like, that's not her. And the lady's like, oh, good. And she's like, well, how do you get to this forest? And she's like, oh, it's not a good idea for you to go to the forest, it's dangerous. And she said, basically, if you go, stay on the path. So she leaves. She's not really buying into this whole cursed thing. So when she's outside, she's trying to get a signal on her phone, but she's way out in the mountains, so she can't get one. And so a young lady comes out, and she said, you can't get a signal here. She's like, if you go into that forest, she said you need to stay on the path because it's got angry spirits in there, and people go there to kill themselves, and you can get lost. And she's like, well, will you take me in there and I'll pay you? And she's like, no. So at this point, she's getting exhausted. She's constantly trying to find her sister, but no one's really helping her. So she ends up at this bar, and she meets this guy who's at the bar too, and his name is Aiden. And she tells Aiden, he hits on her. Yeah, have I seen you somewhere before? I think I recognize you. And she's thinking, oh, you probably saw my twin sister. And he was like, oh, no. He said, I was just, doing a little pickup line thing. I don't know you. I've never seen you before. And she was like, oh, okay. And so she was telling him about her situation. And he was like, well, if you really want to go, I can take you. And there's a tour guide who I'm going to go with. He said, because no one goes in there alone. He said, I won't go in there by myself. So he's like, but I want to interview you and use your story in my article because he's a reporter. And so she's like, fine. So he asks, how was she raised? She told him, I was raised with my grandmother, me and my sister. And he was like, well, what happened with your parents? And she tells him a story of her parents went to the movies and they stayed home, her and her sister with the grandmother. And right when the parents were coming home, they got hit in a car accident and that's how they died. But in reality, the children were home with grandmother, but the parents were in the basement arguing, and their father shot their mother with a shotgun and then shot himself. Mm. Mm-mm. So that's what really happened. But she tells him this other story. So she goes back to her room, her hotel room, and it's like she's kind of seeing things, you know, and stuff like that. And so she wakes up the next day and she meets with, um, what's the gentleman's name? Michi. And Michi is the tour guide. And he really doesn't want to take her in there. And he's like, I don't think you should go. And she was like, well, why? And he said, because you're sad. And that forest preys on people who are sad. It uses your information and your memories and your feelings against you when you're in there. And she's like, well, I'm going. So they go to the forest and they're walking in there. And he said, when you go in here, you may see things, you may hear things that look extremely real. He said, but they're not real. He said, it's the forest and the spirits that are in this forest playing with your mind. It's all in your head. None of it is real. So you need to keep that in mind. So she's like, fine, whatever. She's not really believing him. So they go in there and they find, I'm trying to find me some chips. There's some. This is so massive. You guys just like don't understand how massive this is. Mm. So they go in there and they see a body hanging. And so they cut the body down and they said that we're going to bring people here basically to retrieve the body. So they continue to walk and they come across her sister's tent. And she's like, oh, this is my sister's tent. We found her. We found where she's at. And she was like, well, and the guy's like, okay, it's getting dark. It's getting late. We need to go back. He said, I don't stay here at night. And she's like, no, we have to stay. My sister's here. Her tent is here. Her clothes are hanging on the line. She's here. She's like, we can't leave. And he's like, you don't understand. It's very dangerous to be here at night. It's dangerous enough to be here in the day, but at night it's like a whole nother ball game. But she's like, she's insisting I'm not going. You can go, but I'm gonna stay. And so the Asian guy, Michi's like, fine, I'm going back. And Aiden, he's like wanting to go back, and he does believe Michi, but he also feels for Sarah, so he's like, well, I'll stay here with her and make sure she's okay. So they're there. They set up a fire. they're talking and, talking about their lives and stuff like that. And so they finally say goodnight, and he sleeps outside next to the fire, and she goes in the tent. And while she's in the tent, she starts hearing noises. Some like footsteps running around her tent. And she's like, Hayden, say something. Say something. I know you're out there. Aiden doesn't respond. So she opens the tent, and here are these ghostly demons reaching out to her. And then she wakes up. So she wakes up, and Aiden is asleep next to the fire. So he obviously didn't hear none of that what went down. Okay, what went down, he didn't hear it. So she all of a sudden sees this girl. She hears noises and she walks out there. Then she sees this girl who's running in the forest. So she runs after her. So as she's running after this girl, the girl finally stops. And she tells Sarah, don't trust him. He's not safe. Don't trust him. And she's talking about Aiden. So Aiden finds her because she falls and cuts her hand real bad. And Aiden finds her and he's like, let's get back to the camp and get your hand patched up. And let's not get lost out here. So they get back to the camp. He patches her up. The sun is up. And he's like, let's head on back because, your hand is injured. We have to get you some help and get you stitches and cleaned up. And she's like, well, we're supposed to wait here for Michi. And he's like, well, that's at noon. He said, so it's early now and we need to hurry up and get you some help. So they're walking. And she's like, we're going the wrong way. And he's like, no, we're not. We're supposed to be going downhill, not uphill. Because she was trying to take him uphill. And he was like, you need to follow the river. The river's going down. So that's where we need to go. So she gets panicked and runs away from him. She demands, let me see your cell phone. You did know my sister. Basically accusing him. Talking about, let me see your cell phone. Let me see it. And he's like, why? She's like, because I want to see it. And he's like, fine. So he gives her his cell phone. She's like, don't try to touch anything with it. Don't try to erase anything. He was like, I'm unlocking it. So he gives her the phone. And she's like, I'm erasing every recording that you did of me. I'm no longer allowing you to do a report on me. I'm not allowing you to do it. We're not doing that no more. So he's like, okay, what's wrong with you? You're tripping. And so he tries to get his phone back, and she doesn't want to give it to him. And her sister's picture appears in his phone. So this is why she's getting a little extra antsy. And she's also antsy based on what that girl in the forest said. Don't trust him. So he's like, give me back my phone. And she's like, no. And so he fights with her. He throws her to the ground. And then she throws his phone and she runs away. So she's running away in the forest. And she falls into this hole in the ground. And she hurts her leg. And so, while she's in this hole, all of a sudden that girl appears again in the cave. She's like, I can show you to where Jess is. You want to see her, right? And Sarah's like, yeah. She's like, well, why is she down here? And the girl just walks away. Walks away from her. She's like, wait. She's like, why is she here? And so she finally catches up to the girl, and the girl's just standing. And she flashes her cell phone flashlight up at her. She's a total ghost demon creature, which should have been obvious. How did the girl get in the cave? Like, how? Why was she in the forest at night, just running through this haunted forest? Like, the whole country knows that this forest is haunted. This is the place where people go to kill themselves. And I think this is actually a true place in Japan. So this is a place where people go to kill themselves, because they're sad or depressed or whatever. And so, how was that girl even? I would have never thought she was real. I would have been highly suspicious. Like, why is she out here in the middle of nowhere? I don't know why she's out here, but I would have been like, you stay over there, and I'll stay over here, and we'll be good. So the girl turned into this little demon ghost creature. And so she runs away. And while she's running away back to where she started, she's seeing all these ghosts, all these demon things just standing there. All these ghosts and spirits just standing there making these noises. When she finally gets back to where she started and she's looking up at the hole she fell in, Aiden's up there saying, Sarah, Sarah. And he finds her. He's like, well, let me get some rope and tie it so I can get you out of there. And she's like, oh, don't leave me, don't leave me. I'd have been done with Sarah if I was Aiden. I'd have been like, girl, you got problems. Maybe this forest is getting to you, but either way, it's now kind of dangerous for me to be around you. But he doesn't do that. He helps her. But while she's down there and waiting for him to come back with the help, she finds this old toy. And matter of fact, it's the same toy that she had when she was a kid. When she was talking about how her parents died, they were showing footage of what she was doing. So I don't know. This is for back in the day, folks. Okay, if you're a 90s kid born in the 80s, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But you know that toy where you look into it, and as you flip, you're getting different film reels, and you're getting to see different pictures, and you just flip it and you see something else, and you click on it, and it's almost like binoculars, and you click on it and you just see another picture, and it's like a circular pictures. Well, she finds that identical to the one she had when she was a kid. And she's looking at it, and it's basically a snapshot of what happened to her parents the night they died, play by play. And then when she gets to the end, she's looking for the scene where her parents were murdered, and she's like, I don't see it. And then the dad all of a sudden pops up in the photo. I'm like, oh my God, girl, like, when are you going to realize, for one thing, why was that thing down there? There's no way in the world that thing should have been down there. I'm sorry. No. It's not even a possibility. In my mind, it wouldn't have been no possibility. But for her, I don't think she's thinking. I don't think she's thinking at all. So, oh, good. I got some Chippa chips. Sometimes it's hard to find it when nachos like this. So she's drug up, and Aiden tells her, I think I found a house, and it might have a radio or something in there. And she's like, oh, you just found it out of nowhere? It just appeared to you? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, well, let me give you this knife. And she's like, what are you giving me the knife for? He said, just to make you feel comfortable and safe. And I was like, Aiden, why would you give a girl who you see is losing it a weapon? I don't care if you feel comfortable and safe or not. You don't have to be around me. You can take your butt back into the forest. Matter of fact, fall back in that hole. You're not getting no weapon from me, because you are losing it, literally. But you give him a knife. They get to the house, and he's trying to fiddle with the radio. So he's like, "Can I have the knife? Because I'm trying to open up this thing." So she reluctantly, why do you want the knife? So she reluctantly gives it to him, but she gives it to him. Then she's walking around and she sees this door in the house that's locked. And she's like, "Well, why would they lock the basement?" And he was like, "Well, how do you know it's a basement?" She was like, "Well, what else could it be?" He's like, "It could be a closet. It could be a bedroom. It could be anything. Who knows what's behind there? We don't know it's a basement." It's just common sense. So basically, all of a sudden, this voice starts talking to her through this basement door. And then it starts sending her notes underneath the door. So it's saying, one note said, "It's Aiden there?" And then Sarah wrote back, "Yes." And she was like, and then the note came back, "Get me out of here. Find the key." And, and so she was like, "Okay, I'm going to gym and find the key." So she goes to the kitchen and finds a knife because she's looking for the key. But she finds a knife and she goes to Aiden. And he's like, here's it's like a granola bar. He's like, "Here, this is the last one, but you can have it. I want you to have your strength." And she comes over to him because she got the kitchen knife now. She comes over to him all calmly, like she's afraid of him. Like she's being a weirdo. And I'm like, "Aiden, are you peeping out this girl?" I don't know. Maybe he was thinking with his genitalia, or he was just. That was too much of a gentleman for me. There's a time to be a gentleman, and then there's a time to just be like, "You are a person, I am a person, and I'm not dealing with your crap. I'm not." So she comes in and acts like she grabs a granola bar, and then she sticks him in the neck with the knife. And he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And she's like, "I don't know if you've lost your mind, Miss Forrest, or what, but give me the key to let my sister out of the basement." I'm like, "Do you hear what you're saying? That doesn't even make sense." But this is what she says to him. And he's like, "Sarah, wake up." He said, I don't know where your sister is. She's not here." And she gets deeper in his throat. She's like, "Give me the key. Give me the key." He's like, "Fine." He's like, "Fine. I have the key." She's like, "Where is it?" He was like, "It's in my boot. Let me just get it." And she was like, "Fine, get it." And when that happens, he's trying to tackle her. And he's trying to get this knife out of her hand. He ends up falling on top of her, and she stabs him in the chest. Then, as he's dying, she starts to realize, "Oh my God, I killed someone, and I might be losing it." I'm like, "Really?" So after she kills him, all of a sudden that basement door opens. I'm like, "Oh my God." So the basement door opens, and she goes down the stairs. And when she gets to the bottom of the stairs, she sees the younger version of Jessica, her twin sister, there. And she tries to cover her sister's eyes because when her parents got shot, her sister was the one who actually, when her grandmother went downstairs, Jessica was right next to the grandmother and got to see what happened to the parents, whereas Sarah closed her eyes and she didn't see anything. So Jessica probably had, a little more trauma seeing your parents, dead in the basement after your father had killed your mother and then himself. So that's very traumatic. I mean, so I can see why she might be on some anxiety medication. So she's covered her little okay, her sister is a little girl back to the age where this incident happened. So she's back to a little girl, and she runs down the steps and she sees her there, and she tries to cover her eyes, and then she sees her parents positioned in the basement the way they were in real life back in the day. And she's like, oh, why, Daddy? Why? Why did you do it? And then Daddy wakes up and he crawls over to her and he grabs her wrist. And she's got the knife. And so she's cutting her father's fingers off, like, get off of me, get off of me. And so she runs out the house and she's running through the forest and she sees all these ghosts, just a bunch of ghost spirits, all in the, just like thousands, all in the forest. And she's just running like, oh my God. And she's yelling out for Jessica. Then it flashes to Jessica in the forest. This is the first time we're actually really getting an intense look at Jessica since she's been looking for her. So Jessica's in the forest and she hears this, but then there's also a search party coming in because Sarah's boyfriend, who didn't want her to go, he came to Japan, and Michi, he's there looking for Aiden and Sarah, and they brought the whole police force. So they're all out there searching. And so while Jessica is hearing someone say Jessica in the background, which is Sarah, she decides to run from that direction because where that's happening, the direction where Sarah's coming from, it's like the trees are moving and it looks super creepy. So Jessica runs from that direction, and rightfully so, Jessica. So she runs and she keeps running and running, and then Sarah starts running after her and she sees Jessica, like the back of her. So she keeps chasing after Jessica, yelling for her. And Jessica is running full speed ahead to the lights that she sees, these searchlights. Because Jessica's been in there for about 5 days and she knows what's up with this forest. And she somehow survived for 5 days with all that nonsense. So when she heard someone yelling Jessica behind her, she was like, oh, heck no. This is not who I think it is. Ain't nobody I know back there. It's some ghost. So Jessica's heading, running right towards the street, the searchlights. And Sarah is behind Jessica trying to chase after Jessica. So Jessica finally makes it and she runs into the arms of Sarah's boyfriend. And the boyfriend first thought it was Sarah, and he was like, "Oh, Jessica." He's like, "Oh, this is great. We found you." He said, "Well, we have to go back in there to look for Sarah." And she's like, "Sarah's here?" And he's like, "Yeah, she came here to look for you." And so Sarah was chasing, and right when she got to the edge of the forest, that ghost girl who had been luring Sarah all over the place in that forest, she stops her from exiting the forest. And Sarah's like, what are you doing? And so Sarah finally, it rewinds us back to what was happening when she encountered her parents in the basement and she went downstairs. And when she was cutting her father's fingers off of her wrist, when he grabbed her, she was really cutting her wrist. Her father was not there. So when she was cutting deeply, getting her father's fingers off of her, she was cutting up her wrist. And basically, she ended up sitting on those steps bleeding out, and she killed herself. The spirits made her kill herself. And so she realized, she was like, no, it can't be. It's not true. And so all of a sudden, all these hands reached up from the ground and just pulled Sarah into the ground. And Sarah was gone. And then everybody was leaving, and Jessica was like, she's like, Sarah's gone. Because they were both always saying, Sarah was like, as twins, we can sense when something happens with one another, and if someone is dying or is gone, because Sarah knew that from Jessica. She had tried to commit suicide 2 times previously. So she was saying that us as sisters, we've always been able to sense each other's moods and feelings and what's going on with each other. So Jessica was in the car and she was like, I don't hear Sarah. She said it's silent. So that basically meant she knew that Sarah was gone. Sarah wasn't coming back. And she wasn't. So Jessica drove off. And then Michi was standing there just looking at the forest. And then all of a sudden he saw Sarah out there. And, she did this creature pop-up scream, and that was the end of the movie. So it was a good movie. I thought it was short, sweet. I think it's like an hour and 60 minutes long. And it was really good. I give this an 8. Good action, good story. Got right to the meat and the potatoes. Didn't take you all through a bunch of stuff that don't matter. What I will say is I would have been done with Sarah if I was Aiden. Watching Aiden go through what he went through in that forest with Sarah was like, why? You don't even know her. I would have been just like Michi. And I would have been like, well, I'm not staying here overnight. So if you want to be, a hero for your sister, who am I to stop you? But I'm not staying with you. He said, I'll be back in the morning, and that would have been me. I would be like, I barely want to come back. But I understand you look for your sister, so I'll come back. This when I was seeing what was happening to Aiden, that's just the part that just got me like, leave her. Let her stay. Let her have all these opinions and thoughts about you. But that's how I get when I watch a scary movie. So, the movie was great. It's on Netflix right now. And let me make sure. No, it's an hour and 35 minutes long. And it was good. It was good for what it was. I like those horror Asian culture stories because I don't know. They have a different type of horror energy with their movies, and I like it. It's really good. So other than that, let me do my touch up. You guys, as you see, this is endless nachos. But we're not here just for the food, are we? We're here to talk. We're here to commune. And the food, of course, is beautiful and entertaining, but I ate a lot. I did. And a lot of these nachos are like so saturated. It was hard for me to even get them. So next time I might do it a little differently. But my husband's gonna probably tear this up. All right. Well, we did our touch up, and other than that, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this movie review of Forrest. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a good one, and come and meet me again here for another movie. The next movie we'll be watching is In the Tall Grass. And this is also in Netflix, on Netflix. And without that, other than that, have a good one. Stay safe, stay blessed, and always keep your head high. Okay, you guys. Bye.